Setting up. It's getting easier. Okay, I think we're live. Okay. All right. Hi, Amara.
Hi, Dr. Erica. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. So welcome everybody. If you're joining us live, please let us know in the comments if you can hear us. And I am Dr. Erica Vonderleith, and I love helping women let go of stubborn weight caused by hidden stressors and hormonal imbalances. I have a practice here in Park Ridge, New Jersey, and I have a chiropractic practice as well as a functional medicine practice. So I see people in office and I see them virtually as well. And I have awesome programs, a private Facebook group, and a private newsletter. If you want to subscribe to any of those, please let me know in the comments or send me a direct message. So I have an awesome friend and a guest here with me today, Amara Wagner, and we are going to be discussing symptoms and basically how our body speaks to us through symptoms. And we're going to kind of come at it with a different perspective because it seems to be kind of what's the buzz right now. And I would love to hear your perspective, and I would love to hear what you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you help women and your message.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I don't know that everybody knows that Dr. Erica and I go way back. So it's really fun to connect with you here. Thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome.
I have been an integrative health coach for about 15 or 16 years now. And my work is really centered around teaching mothers how to raise naturally healthy families without sacrificing their own health and well-being. And that's really the important part, because raising, healthy kids is kind of easy, but sometimes we put ourselves way down on the list and suffer. So that's my priority. And I also, work in private.
Great. So you chopped out for just a second. So if I miss what you say, I'm just going to maybe ask you to repeat it. So hopefully that won't happen.
Yeah, ask me again. You're a little bit choppy too, but yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. But yes, I mean, that's such a, I feel like I've been talking to my patients about that so much lately. I don't know if it's been like there's been a lot going on, right, in the last couple of weeks. And so the talk has been about just, getting that control back, falling off track, but it's okay, right? Because I was just talking to somebody today that there's so much seasonality to what we do, right? I don't know about you, but I am not 100% all of the time. So, it's okay. You have to have some forgiveness for yourself and, realize that. And then I have many mentors and a tribe, right? So look to people like yourself for guidance and support. And
Absolutely.
your tribe is so lucky to have you.
I have lots of people who guide me and support me too. There's no way to do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the reason why I'm excited about talking about symptoms and kind of just coming to it from a different perspective than I think we're hearing so much right now. I mean, I think especially mothers, we're so hyper vigilant right now of like, did my kid cough? Is that a fever? Is that a fever of 101? Like, we're so nervous, and we are. I think that that's normal, but I have been talking to my clients about a lot is, how our bodies speak to us. And, I don't know that most of us have been taught growing up how to trust our bodies and how to be in dialogue with them and listen to them, really listen to them.
Right.
And I think that that's really, really important always, and now especially.
Yes, what I had sent out in kind of a prelude to our talk was symptoms are like that warning light in your car. So, you don't want to ignore those symptoms, right? Whether they are small
Yeah,
symptoms or things that you might think are normal. Oh, it's normal, right? It's normal because I'm going through menopause. It's normal because
that's it.
I'm getting older, right? That
Right.
that you're having these symptoms, but they can be a process, but you have to listen to why you're having them. Like I personally fell off the wagon like this past week. And I can tell you that I had so many more symptoms that I forgot existed really. My sleep, I wasn't sleeping well at all. And, I was starting to have some hot flashes. And I've been priding myself on like, I'm feeling really great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not normal to have excessive symptoms like that.
Right.
And I just firsthand realized that it's so important to listen to those.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. But what I hear and, you're sharing about hot flashes is, there's an important piece, which is not that you're afraid of your hot flashes or that you're like, oh my goodness, I need to get rid of my hot flashes. Hot flashes are bad. It means something's wrong with me. Like, it's like, oh, hot flashes. Yes, right. I remember that's my body's, way of saying I'm eating the wrong foods and there's some excessive inflammation or, whatever you would know best. Um, but I think that we have kind of been trained want to so either ignore them. Oh, I'm really a fan of kind of befriending your symptoms.
yeah, I mean, just
Hot flash. What was that hot flash like? What did it feel like to be in hot flash?
right.
He was, going through and what is a hot flash?
All right, hold on one second, okay? Because you keep on freezing. I'm just going to open the door to my office because I don't know if
I
it's
may
a
have
signal
lost you.
in my office. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm not used to anything freezing. It's funny, the phone's ringing now, but anyhow. So, okay, I'm sorry because that was very
Are we
choppy.
still breaking up?
I hope not. I mean, I see you fine right now. So, okay.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I don't know how
Maybe
much
it
you
was that.
heard, but I was sharing that maybe it was all the talk of hot flashes. Things got a little electric somewhere.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
circuits or something.
But
um,
I've had women in their 70s, have, oh my God, I still have so many hot flashes. And I'm like, you should be way past that. So I'm not sure what they're thinking in terms of that normalcy of it, but it's important to kind of have a conversation with that, I feel.
yeah, I think it's important, whether we're talking about hot flashes, I work with moms with younger children.
Yeah.
So, most of the women that I work with don't have hot flashes, but they have kids who get fevers, or coughs, or runny noses, or ear infections, all of those things. Um, or the moms that I work with just feel exhausted all the time,
That's
all the
so
time.
huge. Yeah, right. I feel at any age, that
Yeah.
I have it with the younger moms and then the middle-aged women and then, whatever time of life people just think that's normal, right? I mean, I've got kids
Right.
or,
Yeah.
we're always making excuses, right, for these symptoms.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. it's understandable why we're so tired, right? Some of us are tired because we're not sleeping well, or we're doing too much, or our expectations are too high. We need more support. There are lots of reasons. It could also be hormonal. When, if I'm eating certain foods, I cannot get through the day without coffee.
Oh, yeah.
There are
Okay.
definitely certain foods that make me exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
If I eat a plate of pasta for dinner, the next morning I'm like dragging out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how my body works. I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that the tiredness isn't what's wrong with me. The tiredness, something's off balance here.
Right.
And so when I'm saying, when I'm telling my clients, like, we want to pay attention to symptoms, we want to befriend them, I don't want to just mask my coffee, my tiredness with coffee and be like, oh,
Right.
I'm just somebody who needs 5 cups of coffee a day.
Right.
Well, no, I'm not coffee deficient.
Yes. Yes. Right. I love how you put
and often our symptoms are letting us know that we're deficient in something. That's my experience. I don't know if it's yours, but, and it doesn't necessarily, sometimes it's supplements, vitamins or nutrients. Sometimes it's sunshine or hugs, physical touch. We had, spoken earlier, one of the things that I think we don't talk enough about is how much our emotions manifest in our physical body as symptoms also.
Absolutely.
We hear of symptoms, we're like, oh, if you have a fever, it's a symptom because you have a virus or, an infection, if, something like that. But a lot of times our symptoms are from emotional things as well.
Right.
Even very physical things like cough, hormone, hot flashes could be emotional components too.
Right.
Yeah. Do you see that with your patients as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you were saying how much research is behind this now also. And I spoke of this before, this tool that I use to monitor heart rate variability. It's called the heart math. And that when we get into a better state of coherence and our heart rate variability is better, then how do we get into those states is the question. And those, when you say like a hug, happiness, gratitude, those kind of things. And what throws us off are things like fear, but not just fear, right? Anger, frustration, bitterness. And so we need to realize that those emotions are having a physiological and physical, impact on ourselves, right? So
yeah, it's so cool that you can monitor that now. And I think, like I was saying, we've known each other for so many years. When I first started, kind of looking into this and researching how our emotions affect our physical health and manifest as physical symptoms, it was a little like, it was a little out there. It was a little like woo-woo, yeah. And now I think the research is really catching up. I think it's really kind of concrete. We know that, emotions affect your physical body. And often, this is, an example, I have had this experience myself with many symptoms. But often when we have something kind of a little bit stubborn or something that's hard to get, you're like trying a supplement and things aren't working, I always recommend that my clients kind of come back to emotions. What does it feel like? What are you feeling? Because there's always some underlying emotional piece when we have kind of challenging symptoms.
I 100% agree, because obviously you know a lot about supplements. I know a ton about supplements, and it's not, just like you would think, prescription medications, not the answer, right? A pill for every ill is not the answer. And you could say the same thing about a supplement, right? You can't out supplement a poor lifestyle. And even though I suggest supplements as part of like a targeted protocol, the lifestyle factors, I would say, I would venture to say like it's 80% of somebody really healing. So mindset is huge. Sleep is gigantic, right? Why are you tired? Well, do you sleep?
Right. Yeah.
And most of the time it's like, no, for
Right.
whatever reason, right? And
Yeah.
making sure you get the right exercise, not over exercising, and you
Yeah.
know, stress management is really a big one too.
It's
So
so
is that
important.
four?
Yeah.
Sleep, exercise, um, stress management, and the right foods, obviously. So
Right. Yeah. When I was growing up, what my so of Louise Hay. Are you familiar with Louise Hay?
hmm hmm
So I'm sure you've heard of Hay House Publications. Yeah, there you go. So I love Louise Hay, and her whole original premise was about understanding how different symptoms come from our old beliefs or emotions that are kind of stuck in our bodies. And so much, and it seems again a little woo and a little out there, but now that we have the science, especially with heart disease and heart attacks, there's really good science there to show us no, your trauma, your fear, your anger really can manifest in heart disease or a heart attack. I remember when my kids were little, I would look up Louise Hay when they had something, an ear infection or something. And it's so fascinating how the body responds. The body is really this miraculous kind of thing that is always trying to find balance and always trying to heal. And I think that when we fear our symptoms and when we kind of want to squash things, we want to there's a fever in the body, we're like, make it go away at all costs. Give a fever reducer, no matter immediately, or there's pain. Well, yes, nobody wants to be in pain, but
why
pain
is
is the
it
body's
there?
way of speaking to us and also trying to find balance.
Right, right. Yeah. I always, because root cause management is always like what I've been doing since, I've been practicing chiropractic over 25 years. And it's the same thing with functional medicine. You need to find the root cause. You don't want to cover up the symptoms. What's causing the
Right.
pain? What's causing the fever, right? What are causing your symptoms? Let's dig deeper and find out what
Right.
that is. And
Yeah.
stress seems to be a big one. It does. Emotional stressors. And,
Yeah.
inflammation is huge. And what I'm finding too is blood sugar
Yeah.
dysregulation is a big one too, right? Because we live in a society
Yeah.
where,
All of those,
mhm,
for sure. Blood sugar, stress, inflammation, and they're all connected.
right,
In essence, they're all a form of inflammation in some
right,
way, right? They all create inflammation in the body.
right, right.
Excess mucus, excess inflammation in the body. Um, when we have something, it's really easy to say like, well, you have to reduce your stress. Gosh, that sounds stressful to me. Just think, even that
I
sounds
know.
stressful, like,
Yeah,
oh, it feels like another thing I have to do.
right.
And so, I really like to share with the mothers that I work with, when we're trying to figure out like, what is going on, I mean, I always say that the real work that I do is teaching mothers how to connect to their intuition, because we always have like a little idea of what it is. And then just like the symptoms, we kind of squash it. We're like, oh, that couldn't be right. What do I know? But you
Yes.
really are an expert in your body. And the
hmm
more that you train yourself to be like, every time my stomach gets upset, it's because I have a call with this person, or it's because I have to do this one task, or, whatever it is. I'm always amazed at how people make those connections. Several years ago, I worked with a client whose child was having very severe allergic reactions, severe abdominal pain, and they could not figure out. They went to all kinds of GI specialists. They could not figure out what this child was reacting to. And they had food intolerance tests and elimination diets, and they had done everything. She was so at her wit's end. And I asked her, what do you sense it is? The body's obviously speaking. It's reacting to something. What do you think your little boy is reacting to? And she said, Amara, I feel like it's soy. I just feel like it's soy, but it can't be because it's been ruled out by all of the tests. And the doctors have, said it can't be. And they were about to do an exploratory surgery with this child to try and figure out what's going on. And I was like, what do we have to lose to just eliminate soy completely?
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks. Just try. And she, of course, obviously the end of the story was that's what it was. She knew, and she was listening to her little boy's body and, paying attention, but we kind of dismiss it. We're like, it can't be that. What do I don't know better. I'm not the expert.
Right.
But you are the expert. You do, those little inklings are really, really important, which is, I encourage people to keep a symptom journal. If you're feeling like you can't sleep or you're getting hot flashes or upset stomach or whatever it is, keep a journal and pay attention to when it happens, what you were feeling at that time, who was around, what time of day it was, all of those things that we don't pay attention to. Yeah.
Right. So that's a really great piece, because I was going to ask you, what are some kinds of pieces of advice you normally give your moms to, how do you reduce stress? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So keeping a journal is
reducing stress. I think journaling is really, really important. Yeah. I have a membership group, and once a month we meet and I do journaling prompts. I think journaling can be really helpful. Some people have an aversion to journaling, and that's totally fine. Journaling certainly isn't the only way to reduce stress. I think a lot of people, definitely children, but even more so people our age, have a little bit of nature deficit disorder.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're so tied to our devices.
I know.
I saw a meme the other day that showed like the old original computer, the big computer, and it was like, remember when we created this to escape from the real world? Like, let's go back to the real.
Oh,
we need to go
my
back to the
gosh.
real world.
Yes. Yeah, and I've spoken about forest bathing too. I mean, nature is such a dose of, goodness in our life that we seem to be lacking so much. And
it's really physiological.
Yeah, right.
It really is. So, like the idea of reducing stress, when you say to, particularly like, the mothers that probably both of us tend to work with, like a suburban, middle-class mother, reduce stress, she thinks like, I have to go to the gym and work out a lot. Maybe that's good for you. Maybe not. I love that you mentioned recently, like over exercising can be very stressful on your body.
Mm-hmm.
It may mean that you actually need to exercise less strenuously for some people, who know, it depends on the individual, or go to the spa or have a massage. And all of those things take time and resources, and, they're hard to do right now, harder to do than ever. But, like putting your feet on the ground and grounding yourself is a way
bare
to
feet,
stress. And you can do it for like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, literally bare feet on the earth is very grounding. Most of us don't breathe, myself included. We forget to breathe. We're literally like here. If you can set an alarm on your phone and have it call breathe, and breathe for 2 minutes a couple of times a day, incredibly important for reducing stress. And you'll see, you'll have so much more patience with, your family and all of that. What I think we've been taught that reducing stress is like another thing on our to-do list, and probably we have to buy something in order to do it. We have to, we have to buy a device or pay somebody, but
yeah, and you don't.
Yeah,
not necessary. Right.
Super, super simple. I like a little power nap. Some of my moms, especially with younger children, if they're nursing or just up early, I'm a big encourager of take a 20-minute nap.
Right.
Your body deserves rest. You deserve rest.
And that's an important part, because I think a lot of moms and young moms think they don't deserve it. They need to be doing something else. And I know, like, even my husband would say, just take a break. And I would always think, well, if I take a day off, then there's going to be that much more for me to do the next day.
Yeah.
But you need to refuel yourself, right? So that 20 minute power nap, we used to do that in college all the time. We'd call them, the guy on my dorm floor called them power pans. I don't know why, because nap spelled backwards, but I'm going in for a power pan. But it was so, it made such a big difference.
You were like pre-gaming. You had important things to do.
Super important. But I think also the thing with the mothers is that you have to know that you deserve it, because how many times do you tell your moms that how are you going to take care of the ones you love if you don't take care of yourself, right? Apply your oxygen mask first. That's what they tell you to do on an airplane.
It sounds really cliche.
I know.
All heard it.
Right. And it doesn't take much. Like the message a lot of times I put in my newsletters is that there's small habits, right? If you do small, you don't have to do an hour meditation. You don't even have to do 5 minutes. Like, start off with just a minute. Like you said, just start off with a few deep, relaxing breaths, and do that regularly, as opposed to once or twice a week. Start doing them just a minute every day. It does make such a difference.
Yeah. And so then, like, coming back to symptoms, it's like when you start to implement those things, you realize, like, the symptoms that I've been dealing with, whatever they are, it could be a million things, from pain to fevers to a cough to hot flashes, anything. It's not like those weren't actually the problems in the first place. Like, oh, it's so simple. It can be so simple.
Right.
Because we think, like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get rid of hot flashes? That feels insurmountable, and everybody has hot flashes. So how could we possibly, ever not have hot flashes? But then when you actually start to pay attention to your body and hear, like, oh, what's that about? Where am I feeling heated? Where's that heat coming from? What's happening? And then, sometimes you will know, or sometimes it takes a little bit of time. It's often helpful. I always say I don't really know what's best for my clients, but I have the ability to hear them tell me. They don't hear their own words when they're talking.
You're very good at that.
But I just reflect it back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so sometimes we need a coach or a doctor to kind of guide us a little bit, but we know what's best for our bodies and what's going on so often.
And like I was saying before, it's easy to get off track. And these things that you're saying are very simple. Let's see, they're easy, but they're also easy not to do, So I think that's where we need to make that connection. And it helps to be like on these calls or in your tribe, because then you're around people that you feel like, can lift you up and get you through that. Because if you're always around people saying, oh, just eat that piece of cake, or I don't know, whatever, fill in the blank. It's just like, you have to be around like those like-minded women sometimes that will give you that support and guidance that you need.
Absolutely. It's so important. I my relationships that I've formed, being in circles and groups with other women keep me alive. I don't feel like that's an overstatement. They really keep me going in so many ways. And like you said, they remind me, it's such an important thing that you said, that they're easy to do, but they're so easy not to do.
Yeah. Right.
It's like drinking water, right? Right. It's easy to drink water. It's really easy not to drink water. And I do it myself. I'll be sitting at my desk at 4:00 and be like, why, like my head hurts. Why do I have a headache? I'm not getting sick. What's happening? And then, oh my goodness, I don't think I've had a glass of water since I woke up.
Oh my gosh.
I have to remember.
Right.
Drink water. The headache's not the problem. I don't need like a Tylenol. I need water. I'm thirsty.
Right.
But if you're
check-ins
with other people, then you can be reminded of those things. And also it's helpful to hear, stories of, other people, because sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm drinking water and nothing's happening. Right. Or yeah, I walked barefoot and I on the ground and I didn't feel anything. So that was hocus pocus. Sometimes when things are working, we don't notice because we don't have the symptoms.
Right.
Or we don't notice a big change. It just feels like, oh yeah, it's nothing. Sometimes that's the sign that things are going well for you. You are, in a state of wellness.
Oh, I liked what you said earlier too. It was like, I think you said something like, I'm not as irritable, you can stay a little bit more level-headed. I mean, that's like a win right there, especially when, you have little ones and you're trying to keep the peace.
Right.
And I remember,
especially now with everybody home.
Yeah. When, early on, when we became friends, I was like, how do you do it? Because you were the president of, Holistic Moms, running your business, and then you have little kids, and now you're doing sportive ed, and it's like we have to find this balance somehow, right? And you also have to learn to say no, right? Know when to say no. That's important. I know my mentor had posted something about it's November, right? So know when to say no to people and the right times to say no. Mm-hmm.
It is really important. I do a lot. That's what drives me. It's my own personality. I never want anybody to compare themselves to another person and what they do. That's really important.
Right.
I do say no a lot. The things I say yes to a lot. And I have a lot on my plate, as do most of us, but there are things that really, that energize me rather than deplete me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. Like that's something that I am always checking in with my body about, right? Like when I think about running for board of ed, or doing the PTO, or whatever it is, doing taking on a client, even, does it feel like an opening, like an energizing, or does it feel like a
right?
Because if it feels like an it's a no for me,
right?
And that important. Is really very much like, it's not a symptom, but it's a way that my body speaks to me.
Yeah.
I can really tell the difference. And so it doesn't mean that the things that are like, I get excited about, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that, aren't taxing or time consuming, but they don't drain me.
Right.
And that's a really important distinction.
That is a really important distinction. I mean, it seems so simple, right? But, the things that you say yes to, you're definitely more passionate about. And that even though it's going to be time consuming, that it's not going to suck the living life out of you, right? Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if I say no to things because I feel like I should, or I don't want to disappoint, somebody or anybody,
oh my gosh,
or I think somebody's expecting me, that's the, like, if in my mind, I'm like, I go through that process, I'm like, yeah, that's a no.
That's a no. That is such a, that is such an important point. I think that's huge. That's a good
Yeah.
aha for me too. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a way that I'm in dialogue with my body. Like that opening, that like yes or no is like a symptom in some ways, you know, like
A different
sometimes
perspective.
it comes,
Yep.
sometimes it comes as like, sometimes my no comes as like after I went to the bathroom, excuse me, you know, I'm like, ooh, I don't feel so good. I don't think it was something I ate. Something that just
Interesting.
came into my being, even if it wasn't food, does not feel good. And so that I have to pay attention to that.
And you know what's important about that is that we do have to slow down a little bit. If you're always going, then how the heck are you going to listen to your body? Right? I know so many, I'm not, you know, we're not excluding men and dads here, but I know so many moms that do not slow down at all. So how do you think that's,
You know,
how do you,
so yeah, it's become a cultural norm, right? We wear our busyness as a badge of honor. That's the saying, right?
Yeah.
We wear our busyness as a badge of honor. We get together and we're like, you know, it's like, how busy could you possibly be game, right? And I think that that's really hurting us, not just hurting us from a health perspective, but I think it's hurting us, you know, emotionally. And I think that it makes us less productive. We think that we're so productive because we're doing 5,000
so
things.
true. Right. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I had to ask myself that too when I'm doing things. Am I being busy or productive? And then I have to, just like, because of technology, right? And I know you've come off a lot of social platforms. It's like, is this sucking my time? Is this, a good use of my time? So I've definitely, the journaling helps me, creating a schedule helps me, because you can get off the beaten path so easily. But I was talking to some really good friends the other night, and when you say the badge of honor, what kind of advice do you give moms who feel like, I have to cook, I have to take care of my family, I have to do this, in terms of stepping back, right? We have to, create more independence for some other things to get done, right? And if the house isn't clean,
so I think
or
it's hard
you make your own.
Yes. All of those things. It's hard to give kind of specific advice because I feel like it depends on what your situation is, what your resources are, what your support structure is like, how old your children are. But generally speaking, all of the things that you just talked about are, the things that I encourage. The first thing that I really encourage mothers to try and figure out and feel into with their bodies. Again, it sounds so simple, but what is it you need? Sometimes we don't even know. We haven't even slowed down enough to know. What do you need? What is it that you need? So do you need to, eat more, vegetables? Do you need to eat foods that are more nourishing for your body? Okay, let's figure out what that looks like. How to do that? What are the possibilities?
Yes, and let me just interrupt you for a second, that people don't know that you help moms do this with a lot of your classes, right? In terms of what to cook. And people are like, I don't have time to cook. So a lot of your classes are like, cook once, eat thrice. I think that was one of them. But yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's one of my favorite classes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite classes. And we are doing virtual cooking classes now. I'm doing virtual cooking classes, and even for people, you don't even have to be local. The Park Ridge Library, it has been hosting my daughter and I doing a cooking class once a month. We're cooking together, like a mom and daughter class, which is super fun.
Yeah.
Super, super fun. So yeah, I think, asking yourself, what is it that you need? And then, empowering the people around you. My daughter is 11. She cooks dinner once a week for our family.
Yeah. Right.
It's her. It's on her. She tells me us the ingredients she needs and we buy them. And then she plans it and makes dinner for our family.
But you did teach, see, but people could, I got to tell my brother about your cooking class, because I was trying to tell my brother this. Your kids are at an age where they can cook dinner for you, because he was saying, I don't have time to cook. And, but they don't know how to cook. So they have these resources, right? I mean,
Right.
before you, there was HGTV, not HGTV, at food.com, whatever, foodtv.com.
Sure.
So there are ways.
I mean, kids are cooking like crazy things right now. So, I mean, really the first thing so once we figure out like, what is it that you need? The second question is, how can you simplify, right? Sometimes I feel embarrassed with what I'm teaching in cooking classes, because we simplify so much. This is not about like, high-end French cuisine sauces and technical things.
Mm-hmm.
This is
What
like
you can do.
how to get healthy food into your mouth, like in the simplest way possible, so that it tastes delicious.
Right.
So
and if Emmy could do it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have involved my kids in the kitchen from infancy. But even if you have older kids and you haven't, if there's a little bit of an interest, kids are so capable. It's amazing what kids can do. Mm-hmm. I think that, well, kids used to do, have much more expectations. I only have 2 kids, so we have a pretty small family. They don't actually have to do that much. If we had, 10 kids, they'd be raising the younger siblings, Right. They're very capable to do things. Mm-hmm. If you have younger kids, when my kids were little, dinners were really simple. Vegetables were like cut up cucumbers and carrots and celery, maybe cut up, sometimes just rinsed, like just simplify. We watch things like HGTV, we watch all of these shows and everything's Instagrammed and beautiful. And we put that expectation on ourselves. Like, I'm not serving something with 5 sauces and dipping and, all of that stuff. Nobody's house looks like that. Nobody's serving dipping sauces.
Right. And you don't need a bunch of fancy
that
ingredients.
Expectation off of your plate. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Simplify.
That's great. So I want to make sure to, oh my gosh, it's already 7:45, that when we do at the end, that you make sure you tell our listeners about how we can, well, why don't you just do it now? You want to do it now? How we can find out about your
where people
information.
Can find me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my main website is amarawellness.com. And there, there's a place to find out what workshops and classes and things like that I have coming up. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and Fiercely Intuitive Mama is really the main brand that we're working on now and posting stuff through. It's fiercelyintuitivemamas.com is my membership site, if people want to check that out as well. Thank you. Okay. So we have cooking classes, workshops. Tomorrow we're doing a natural remedies workshop, so, kind of more natural ways to deal with everyday symptoms like cuts and burns and scrapes and, bruises and all of that stuff, from a more holistic perspective.
That's great. Yeah. Get your holistic toolbox medicine cabinet or whatever. Stock.
It's so valuable it feels so good to be able to take charge of your family's health, especially with minor stuff, because it's really empowering. It's disempowering to feel like I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to take care. It feels
what should I do?
Helpless. So when you do have tools, it's it's calming for everyone.
Well, and something that I feel is important too, in terms of when you're talking about symptoms or having a toolbox when you have something come up like a cut or a scrape or a bruise or whatever, but also having these tools in place in terms of prevention. So I know that the buzz around, my tribe, right? My practitioners that I speak with a lot is, what are doctors, what is everybody? I don't want to point the finger at anybody, but what is everybody talking about in terms of prevention? How are we going to boost your immune system so that we can prevent certain illnesses, right? Fill in the blank illnesses, whatever. And, why not get your vitamin D levels checked? What is an optimal level for vitamin D? And, just things like that. I feel like simple, they're so simple to do. And I feel like a lot of people just don't know about it. I'm not quite sure why.
Right.
And that's why we're on here, right? To really get the message out more and to get these tools into people's homes and so that they, can use them with their families to help with whatever.
Right. So yes, prevention is so important. And sometimes you don't even know what you're preventing. And that's why like having a dialogue with your body and paying attention to minor symptoms is so valuable, because then you can notice, oh, I think my vitamin D level is a little bit low and I'm getting colds more often. Or, oh, I get hot flashes every time I eat bread, right? Because if you are sensitive to bread and you ignore it or don't pay attention to those early symptoms, or, whatever it is, I'm using bread as the example. But if you don't pay attention to the early things that are causing symptoms in your body, then your body speaks louder. That's how it goes, right? So now in the very beginning, it's like, oh, I get a cold more frequently. Well, low vitamin D is connected with a lot of very serious chronic ailments, including cancer. It would be great if we noticed it early.
Yes. And, I know I had my vitamin D levels checked and they were, lower than I thought they were going to be. And, I love my doctor, but, there wasn't kind of a word up because I was within range, right? I mean, you're within a range that you're not going to have a disease, but you're not in a great functional range where your body probably could be functioning better. And so,
right.
Some of these simple things to just know about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, that's a big takeaway that I hope everybody leaves with is, don't be afraid of your symptoms. Pay attention to them, listen to them. Don't be so quick to squash them. Hear them, journal about them. Sometimes that it sounds silly, but journal with the hot flash. What are you here to tell me? What's happening? Why are you showing up again, Mr. Hot Flash, Miss Hot Flash? So don't be so afraid of your symptoms. And then also, I feel like I really want people to know that, you don't have to be so, it's not so hard. It doesn't have to be so hard or so complicated. Our bodies, like we said, are always looking to heal and find balance. We have to work with them. I feel like oftentimes we feel like we're fighting against our bodies. And, the more we can work with them, the healthier we'll be. That's what wellness is, balance.
Yeah. I mean, as opposed to continuing to put them off. And, you don't want to continue to put stuff off like that. And, knowing that, you deserve it. Like if you're journaling about it and that you show up for yourself, right? I feel like that's so important because,
so important.
it's not something you want to wait on for sure.
Yeah.
You're so worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing better you can model for your children.
Yes. I mean, that is so important.
Mm-hmm. Show up for yourself, pay attention to your body, be present with your body, and you'll show them too. And it's amazing how it works. My kids are so much more in tune with their bodies and know what's happening than I ever imagined. I was not at that age. You know, they've gotten it. They learned it, which
Right.
is so cool.
I know, it is cool. I mean, I still sometimes get the eye rolls, but I'm like, you'll appreciate this more when you're older. But yeah.
Lots of eye rolls. I mean, I have a teenager now too. I don't have a cure for that yet.
No cure for the eye rolls. Well, I did take notes this time,
Yeah.
and I know you wanted to make sure we had some good takeaways, and my takeaways were definitely do like a symptom journal and listen to your body, grounding, and set an alarm to do some breathing. Make sure we do that and put ourselves on the list. What else? Did you have any other key takeaways?
Yeah, those are 3 really big ones for stress,
Okay.
for reducing stress.
Well,
You know, the
sleep. I mean,
grounding
I'll
and
put sleep on
the
that list for
breathing.
sure.
Yeah. And I love a symptom journal, you know, in the same way that I have people create a food journal to kind of, you know, see how foods are working for your body. It's so helpful to do it the other way. If you're noticing things are happening that you're uncomfortable with. And then the other thing, which we said, but I really wanted to directly say is, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal
Correct.
or necessary.
100%.
Right? We happen to live in a society with a lot of unhealthy people.
Right.
So if, you know, all of your friends are experiencing hot flashes, it doesn't mean that you have to.
Right.
It's not necessarily your fate.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that one too. Right. So, we know how to get in touch with you, but also if you could put your contact information in the comments after this is gonna, shoot, I forgot to hit record. Well, it's still recorded on, it's still gonna be on Facebook Live, but I forgot to hit, I could still download it from Facebook. It's not being recorded on Zoom. So I think I'll be able to share that with you, but make sure you share your contact information in the comments below. And again, for me too, if anybody wants to receive my email newsletter or be a part of, I still do have a private Facebook group. So just let me know. You can send me a direct message and let me know. But thank you so much. I definitely took away I was definitely some aha moments for me too during our conversation, and just things that, you just have to be reminded of. And I love that. I really love that. So I appreciate you, and your tribe is so lucky to have you.
Likewise.
And
I feel the same way. Mutual admiration. I always love our conversations. So grateful for you and all of the work that you are doing, and so needed in the world. I'm so glad that you're here.
I think the bummer is that there's just not enough hours in the day. We don't have enough of these conversations.
I know.
So
it's true. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.